Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Wooden Railway Adventures, Episode 168, Scottish Blues. One morning, Douglas brought his trucks into Tidmouth Station. Some children were standing off to the side, waiting for another train. "Look!" cried the boy. "It's one of the Scottish twins! Hello, Donald!" "Yes, indeed!" cheered the girl. "Hi, Donald! How is your duck doing?" Douglas became cross. "I'm not Donald," he cried. "Read my nameplate, would ya?" And he puffed quickly away. The children hadn't meant to call Douglas the wrong name on purpose. It was an honest mistake. Still, Douglas was insulted and was sulking when he met Edward at a switch. "What's the matter with you?" he asked kindly. "You've got that Scottish scowl I've seen on Donald before." "Why you have to mention my twin?" groaned Douglas. "That's all everybody talks about nowadays." Edward was confused. "What's wrong, Douglas? You're certainly bothered by something." Douglas sighed. "Some children confused me with Donald this morning. Thinking back on it, I was rather rude to them. It just makes me a wee bit mad when people think I'm Donald, not me real self." Just then, Gator puffed by. "Hello, Edward. Hello, Donald," he called. "Nice day, isn't it?" "Cinders and ashes!" cried Douglas. "Apparently the engines have forgotten me name, too." Edward chuckled. "Don't be too hard on Gator. He's a new engine. But you have to understand the situation from our point of view. You and Donald look very much alike. That's what twins are. Just like Ari and Bert and Max and Monty. Nobody would call you the wrong name on purpose." "I suppose you're right," said Douglas. "I just wish there was some way to distinguish myself from Donald. Then it would make things easier for the other engines." On the other side of the island, Donald was having the same problem too. When he arrived at Marin Station, the same two children from earlier were there as well. "Oh, hello there," said the girl. "We're sorry we called you the wrong name earlier." "We didn't realize you were Douglas instead of Donald," agreed the boy. "We'll try harder to make sure we get your name right in the future." Donald was horrified. "What are you mumbling about?" he asked quickly. "I'm Donald, not me brother Douglas. Look, me number on me tender says 9. Dougie is 10. Can't you read my nameplate either?" The children stared blankly back at Donald. "Sorry," they said, "but we haven't learned to read yet." Donald rolled his eyes and puffed quickly away. He found Oliver later that afternoon. "It's a pity," he said sadly, "that you can't distinguish one engine from another. You don't think I look like me brother Dougie, do ya?" "Well," said Oliver cautiously, "you both are twins and the same type of engine. Sometimes when I pull into Knapford Station and you two are there, I can't tell who's who until one of you speaks." Donald was sad. "No other engine on Sodor has this problem. I need to go discuss this with Douglas." That night, the Scottish twins talked about what to do. "I'm tired of being mistaken for you," said Donald. "And I'm tired of being mistaken for you," agreed Douglas. "We need to distinguish ourselves somehow," continued Donald. "That way, nobody will mess up our names again." "What about our whistles?" asked Douglas. "Your whistle is just a copy of mine. You should change it." "You don't say!" cried Donald. "It's your whistle that copies my whistle. Why should I have to change it when I've had it longer?" "You haven't had it longer!" exclaimed Douglas. "We got them at the same time, but I've made the whistle famous. My passengers will be sad when they don't hear my familiar sound when I pull into the station." "You don't have any passengers, Dougie!" cried Donald. "Nobody will care if your whistle changes." "Then you change it first," retorted Douglas. The twins argued the rest of the night and into the morning. They were still disagreeing when Ryan arrived with some tankers. "Oh, would you both shut it?" he shouted. "You're making a mess over nothing. Just one of you get a new paint color or something. Then it will be very easy to tell who's who." The twins went from being shocked by Ryan's bluntness to very pleased with the idea. "Nobody will confuse us if we're painted different colors," said Douglas. "We used to be painted blue many years ago," said Donald. "Remember those days, Dougie? Ah, that color of blue was nice, but black seemed to suit us more. That's why we switched back." "Then it's settled," agreed Douglas. "You'll get a new coat of paint so that we won't be confused anymore." "Hold your tender," said Donald crossly. "I'm not changing me color. You're the one complaining about engines mistaking me for you. It will be double trouble if they still call you Donald, and I'm the one with the new paint job." "Losh sakes, this is impossible," cried Douglas, and the two continued to argue. Soon Boko was tired of the constant complaining and went to go settle it himself. "So you both want to be different," he said to the twins, "but none of you want to change." "That's correct," said Donald. "We're stubbornly Scottish, to say the least." Boko sighed. "Well, that's obviously a very big problem. One of you needs to get painted blue like before, and one of you needs to stay black in order to stop this confusion. I'll tell Sir Topham Hatt that you'll have your decision in the morning." Donald and Douglas were eager for a change, but neither of them wanted to be the one to do it. They were still bickering that night in the sheds, and Toad was getting frustrated.
"Excuse me, Mr. Donald and Mr. Douglas, but nothing's going to change if both of you continue to be stubborn about this. Maybe this decision is more troublesome than the actual solution."
The twins thought about what Toad had said. "Maybe he's right," said Douglas. "Come to think of it, I don't mind being called Donald once in a while. When I haven't seen you all day, it's a nice reminder of me twin brother. And it's not so terrible to be mistaken for me famous Scottish twin either," agreed Donald. "At least they don't call us Bill and Ben." Douglas laughed. "Now that would be embarrassing," he chuckled. "But what are we going to do?" asked Donald. "Sir Topham Hatt's already ordered the blue paint, and he expects one of us to change colors tomorrow." "Maybe," said Douglas, "if the paint is accidentally misplaced, then nobody will have to change colors at all." "Ah, I like it," chuckled Donald. "We have a history of misplacing things, if you get my meaning." The twins agreed to go through with the plan. The next morning, Sir Topham Hatt and Boko were waiting in the yard for Donald and Douglas. The paint had arrived and the painters were ready to go. "It will be strange seeing one of the Scottish twins painted blue again," murmured Boko. "A sight like that hasn't been seen in many years." "I agree," said Sir Topham Hatt, "but if this case of mistaken identity between the two is getting out of hand, I suppose this is the only way to fix it." Just then Donald and Douglas puffed in. "We're here, sir," cried Donald. "Excellent," said Sir Topham Hatt. "And which one of you is going to become the blue Scottish engine?" But the twins weren't listening. Donald bumped the paint car onto the intersection. Just then Ryan rushed over the hill and smashed into the car, sending it off the rails. "Losh sakes!" cried Douglas. "Can you believe it? All of the blue paint is ruined." "How terrible!" remarked Donald. "It looks like no engine can be repainted after all. Sorry, sir." Sir Topham Hatt looked at the twins and realized their sneaky plan. "Indeed," he murmured slowly. "Unfortunate is the right word. Well, if there's no blue paint, then there will be no new blue engines, I'm afraid. Continue with your work, you two." The twins were very happy that their plan had worked. Meanwhile, Ryan was cross that he had crashed into the car and splattered paint everywhere. "Aye, you over there!" cried Douglas. "Watch where you're going, would you?" "Look at the mess you made, Brian!" shouted Donald. "Be more careful next time." "It's Ryan, not Brian," he said crossly. "Oh, my mistake," chuckled Donald. "You know, it really is quite easy to get two names mixed up." And the Scottish engines puffed away back to their jobs.